Hello everyone. So came back to the lecture materials. I hope you have done well with the midterm exam. So I will try my best to finish grading over the weekend or by next Monday or Tuesday. I think the grading will not be very complex because mostly these are very basic calculations and your writings about some specific phenomena. So I will try my best to grade them as soon as possible. All right. So this is the mortality. So we have a little bit more than 1.5 weeks by the end of the semester. So thank you very much for your all hard work. So we will be talking about the end of the life on the world. So in terms of biology, the death is the end of the life. There are other notions in the religion like incarceration or the eternal life after the death. But anyway, in demography and other types of the social sciences, we assume that the death is the end of life. So the death on the mortality and the kind of the suicidal or some kind of the abnormal deaths. This is one of my part of my research. So these are my studies about the suicidal ideation and the solitary death. I mean dying alone, and the levels of the impulse of the suicidal deaths. So maybe we don't have the time to talk about these issues, but anyway, the mortality is one of my part of the research. So the mortality, you can define the mortality as the end of life, death, or physically dead or mentally dead or anything, but we assume that the mortality is on the death. So all kinds of the deaths we can imagine and we can define. So as we had many of the measures of the mortality, measures of the birth rate or other population dynamics, we also can find many measures of the mortality. So the crude birth rate, we calculate the crude birth rate as number of events divided by the people, the total number of the people in the group multiplied by the unit number. As we mentioned many times, is 1,000. So death rate will be number of deaths in the group. So we usually calculate at the total. So if we want to calculate the total death rates, that will be number of deaths of the country in total and number of the people in that country or in that area total. Multiplied by the 1,000 because we are calculating the crude on the death rates. So these are the numbers. So number of deaths per 1,000 people, not 1,000 men or 1,000 women or 1,000 specific group of the people, because we just calculate as the total in this calculation. But if you define or if you limit the people as number of deaths of the elderly or number of deaths of the children, then you are specifying some specific group, so you can calculate the age group specific death rates. So maybe you can change the numbers later, but we are just calculating on the crude death rates in this part. So this is an example, and let's assume that this is just example. So the death is 10,651 divided by 195,288 multiplied 1,000. So that will be rate per 1,000. So 5.45 is the crude death rate of the under 1, what we say the infant mortality rate. There are no numbers here, right? So these are very good exam questions. So for example, so this is X. So let's assume that the number of deaths between the age group of between 15 through 21 is X. What we don't know about that. But as we have the population, which is the denominator, and which is the number we can find as the crude death rates. So X, the number we don't know here, can be divided as the number here multiplied 1,000. That is 0.36. So we can calculate that X is 0.36 multiplied by this big number as a denominator. divided by 1,000. So based on this easy calculation, you can find the number of deaths in that part of the people. So, this is very good example of the calculation in the final exam. So please let me know. Please let me know if you want to see or if you want to learn more details about this. All right. So, for the class activity, as you always have, not always, as you usually have after the lecture, this will be the easier version of the calculation for the class activity. So you can simply use this number as a numerator divided by the denominator, multiply 1,000. Then you can calculate the crude death rate per 1,000. You can calculate all together, and then you can make the full table in that part. So, what is the opposite term of the death? So, death is the end of the life, and maybe you can find many of the series of the opposite keywords, like the death rate or the survival rate or the birth rate. But the opposite term of the death will be the survival, because we are living on the earth and we can survive in the area or in the part. So the direct opposite terminology of death will be the survivability or the survival, right? So death and survival and the longevity. Longevity means the period of the time, or the living a long time and living longer in the lives. So life expectancy. You may remember I mentioned many times of the life expectancy, which is expected at certain age time or at certain timing of the age. So it could be at birth, it could be at 10 years old, or it could be at 65 years old. But usually we assume that the life expectancy is calculated as the birth or at the timing of the birth. So for example, if the life expectancy in the United States is 85 years, it means that the newborn babies in this specific year in the United States would live about 85 years. If the life expectancy of the United States in 2023 is 85 years. So you may know that, so you may get a sense that the timing, so it could be the 2020 or 2023. So there should be. So we should be specifying on the timing of the calculating the life expectancy. So this is a little bit old data in textbook. So this is life expectancy in 6 European countries, from 1840 to 2010. So the life expectancy a long time ago, 1840, a long time ago, it's about 300 years ago, right? So the life expectancy was between 40 and 45, which means most of the people were expected to live around 40 through 45, much shorter than these days, right? So in this day, 2010, among those 6 European countries, so most people live up to 80 years. So about, not exactly, but about 2 times longer lifespan, which means the longevity or life expectancy. So, which country has the highest life expectancy at birth recently? You may imagine, or you may guess, it could be United States, because the strongest country in the world, or the Japan, very popular for the very high longevity. So this is old data again from this website. what I love. And so based on the data, 2015, the Switzerland has the highest life expectancy. Let me see, but I don't think so. Let me add the Japan. So let's see. All right, the Japan, 83.9. So among those selection of the countries, Japan would have the highest level of the life expectancy in 2015. We can try to imagine, maybe unselect all, so many of the African countries, maybe Niger, I cannot find it, South Africa. South Africa has the better situation here, but oh my gosh, yeah. the life expectancy dropped down a lot because of the spread out of the AIDS in that country as a communicable disease, but it got much better, but still 57.4. So based on the country and based on the situation of the country, the life expectancy on the life expectancies are very, very different. These are very highly differentiated by the country and by country. All right. So historical mortality trends. I believe I remember I covered this topic a long time ago, but based on the development. So there is a development of the society, the hunting, and based on the very minimal levels of the agricultural products. In those types of society, it was very hard to survive. Because of the malnutrition and the other types of the issues, high mortality. So the living longer and living long was very, very relevant with the high levels of the wisdom. So that was why the elderly or the older adults were highly respected in those types of the traditional societies. So again, this is the better graph, the life expectancy, 1770 to 2019. So the Africa and world, Asia, Europe, there were the fluctuations of the life expectancy, right? So the world, longer, higher, right? So it got much better, right? So it was very short, long time ago, but these days it's around, not around, but about more higher than 70 in most of the countries. So you could see there was the down. So it was 79.1 in 2019, but it got, okay, all right, 79.1, but there was some increase or decrease, right? So it was, it's hard to make it. 79.9 in 2020 and Oceania and Europe 70.7. But because of the COVID-19, you can see the drops of the life expectancy. So based on the very macro level disasters like pandemic situations or the very huge natural disaster, we can find many types of the differences. All right. So for example, we can see the Haiti. Okay, it might be a long time ago, but there was a very steep down of the life expectancy after a very huge disaster. Huge hurricane of the Haiti devastated most of the part of the continent, or most of the parts of the land of the Haiti. So based on that situation, based on the natural disaster and the macro factors of the very high levels of the deaths, it can change the level of the life expectancy of the country. All right, so this is also from the textbook, the life expectancy by the world region. You can see that life expectancy is getting higher and higher and higher in most of the countries. But we can see that in Africa, it was low, very, very low compared with the other parts of the world, and still it's lower than others. So it means that the very general person in Africa, so even though there are very diverse, very, very diverse the types of the countries in that continent, but in general, on average or in the general expectation of the life expectancy is in Africa is 59.07, which is very dramatically very, very lower than other countries. Even the North America is around 20 years difference. So just living in the North America or just being born in the North America will guarantee, not always guarantee, but on average 20 years more lifespan in North America compared with Africa. So this is very huge difference because there are not only people, or there are not only 1,000 people in those countries. So averagely on the 20 years of the lifespan, differences will be multiplied, can be multiplied by the total population of the North America and the Africa. So as after calculation, the difference would be very, very high and very, very voluminous. We cannot imagine the amount of the chances. All right. So there are also a very very different types of differentiations by the age group. So as we could see on the population pyramid, the gender, based on the age group, there are very differentiated the levels of the proportions of the survivability. So in terms of the life expectancy, the woman is more likely to live longer than a man. So the women tend to have a higher life expectancy biologically and culturally and based on the social behavior. So there are many types of the inferiority of the man in terms of the life expectancy. Also, the longer lifespan would be very beneficial, but it's not always very good because people are living longer, for example, then people are staying in the older life stages longer time, because people are living up to 85 years or the 90 years. It means that they are staying a longer lifespan after 65 or something, which is biologically and naturally they would not have the very good health condition as we might have. So the life expectancy, this is very closely related with the well-being issues in their later life. So life expectancy of woman and life expectancy of man, again, on the x-axis, this is the man, and the y-axis, this is the woman. So it means that any of the dots and any of the figures over this line means there are higher, or in that country, the women are living higher or longer than men. So we can see that this is the arrow, and you can see that the general trends is going up and up, which means, or which indicates a longer life expectancy. But there are very different, very diverse and very diverse patterns of the changes in the life expectancy. Alright, so let's continue our discussion in the next video.